Hey, welcome to Find Your Fit with Deanna. I'm Deanna. We are talking today about staying on track during the summer. So, what I want to offer you today is to think of a couple of things, starting first with looking at what on track means to you. So, what are the goals or the things that you have been working on, maybe so far this year or this summer, and what is required for you to stay on track to meet those goals? And so I want you to think of a couple things. This isn't a, sort of, if you want it bad enough, you will dig in. And the truth is, summertime, which is what the time of year is while I'm recording this, where I am, for a lot of folks, it's a time of a bit of a slowdown and a bit of a recharge. And maybe that's what you really need. So I want you to think of two sides of this coin. Side A, or heads, I guess we could say, it is to say you've been working on this particular goal, you want to stay on track with that particular goal, and what is required of that. So if you have been, I don't know, training for a run, or you've been working on something in your lifting and that sort of thing, well, what are the things you need to do to stay on track? And so if you're looking at deloading or taking off a week, let's say, typically those requirements to make sure that you don't lose the gains that you've made is that you do at least one workout in the week that you're off. So let's say you've been working away in your program. This is where we would dig into program periodization. I have another podcast episode. Scroll back. This is my scroll back and have a look at periodized programming if that's of interest to you. But in that deload or vacation week, right, you would want to think about, if you've got 1 week off, let's say, you need to do that workout that you've been working at least once, just to stay in maintenance mode, and then get back on the next week. That said, if you're working on a different kind of goal, and maybe it is, I don't know, creating content, it is building a business, whatever the case is, what is the minimum? This is what you want to ask yourself. What's the minimum to stay on track? If this was the starting point, this is your end point. How have you planned out, how many posts per week? If you're reading or writing a book, how many pages per day, etc., right? What is the bare minimum for you to stay on track to get to that deadline? Now, I offer you this, maybe, because there are loads of options, right? And that's what we like. It doesn't have to be this way or that way. It is to say, what are my choices and what feels right for me? So one of the other options could be that you adjust the goal to say, hey, I wanted to read 1,000 pages of a book. Oh, that's a long book, but 1,000 pages of a book. Maybe I only want to read 900 pages. I don't know if that would actually work, depending on what the book is and how, enticing getting to the end is. But one of the other things, we could adjust the goal, or we could adjust the timeline. So for example, maybe you say, I'd really like to get to those 1,000 pages by August, the end of August. And you've decided, gosh, I'm on vacation for a week with my family and I don't feel like reading this week. Okay, so go into the first week of September, for example, right? Adjust the goal or adjust the timeline. So all options, there's kind of three in there, right? You could look at what is required. What do you have, minimum you have to do to stay on track for that particular goal, to kind of keep things as they are. Or you could say, how do I maybe adjust the goal a little bit? Or how do I adjust the timeline? Okay, so some options. Now, the other side of the coin, so tails, let's say, the other side of the coin I want to offer you is that staying on track isn't, pardon me, isn't really the issue. In fact, we must let ourselves get off track in terms of often our mental health, rest, recovery, that sort of thing. And allowing ourselves to be off track, it's not the problem. The problem arises when we either go beyond the length of time we decided we wanted to be off track, that 1 week, for example, or, these two are really, really quite linked, right? Or you have no plan on how you're going to get back to it, okay? So yes, we want to be off track. It's lovely to all of a sudden or plan out, pardon me, plan out having kind of no schedule. You can take the day as it comes and that sort of thing, right? And there's variation in there, I know, because some of us have dogs that require walks at a certain time, kiddos that, still require to be fed and all of that. But it is to say, That downtime is required, it's necessary, it's important, and it's awesome. So plan out the downtime, allow yourself to be off track. And two things must happen here. One, for how long are you going to let that go, be off track? So is it a week? Is it 2 weeks? And you've got to set a deadline. Okay. And so here's what happens when, excuse me, you are, deciding for a change, you've got to set a hard deadline to get back on track. So what's the deadline? For how long are you going to let yourself sort of, and I don't mean let yourself slide like there's anything wrong with it. I mean, how long are you taking vacation? How long you're not worried about what your workouts look like? You're going to just, go to the pool with the kids and you're going to just go for a walk with a dog. Like those are great pieces and they're very valuable when we talk about fitness and the science behind fitness. Those rest and recovery weeks are gold in our motivation and our injury prevention. So it's not to say there's anything wrong with it. It's the opposite. It's actually required. So first, how long is your off track time? Second, what will you do? What is your plan to get back on track? Okay, so this is where the other issue can arise because we haven't really planned. We just sort of go. So here's what's interesting. You take a week off work and let's say you're an employee, not necessarily an entrepreneur. Okay, so you take a week, and what I mean by that is you have a shift for which you have to report at a certain time. People are waiting for you and that sort of thing, right? So that's the plan to get back on track. Nobody really needs to nudge you. You just do it because why? There's accountability. Somebody's waiting for you. You want your paycheck. Your boss has a job for you, whatever the case is, right? There's an accountability component in there. Now, if you're an entrepreneur, you know that it's different. There's a really significant amount of discipline required also to sort of choose. Like I could have chosen not to record this podcast today, but it's really important to you all, I know, because I've had a few requests of this and people have shared of how hard it is to sort of stay on track this time of year. And it's important for me to share that information with you. So there's a different sort of sense or level of urgency and discipline that's required in that space. So you want to think about, okay, you're an entrepreneur in your fitness space, right? You're not an employee. You don't necessarily have a boss that is saying, oh, you must get back on track at 8:30 on Monday morning, right? You're more the entrepreneur. Do I want to? Do I not want to? Will I? Won't I? I have some flexibility here. Oh, maybe I won't. So I don't want you to give yourself that opportunity. I want you to figure out how to create the accountability so that when it is Monday morning at 8:30, you're reporting back to work, and Monday morning at whatever time, or Monday or Sunday or whatever the case is, you are back in the swing of your goals, because your goals, your health, your fitness are equally more important than, getting back to work because your boss is waiting for you. So how will you, that is really the key, is to build in some accountability. Yes, ultimately, we would love to be accountable to ourselves. That's what we strive for, to do the thing because we know it's important to us and intrinsically we are motivated to do it. That's sort of the gold standard, right? And life is lifing and all things get in the way. So I want you to think about, how will you create accountability? Sometimes it's self-talk. I'm going to encourage you to work on this one. This one gets you closer to the intrinsic motivation of doing it for yourself. So one of the folks you may have heard me talk about recently, I've been watching some shifting my podcast viewing here and there. And I've been listening to Layla Hermosi. She is a brilliant businesswoman and she's very straightforward. One of the things I like about her, tells it like it is. And one of the things that often, this is something that I have sort of taken, not taken, but sort of am using in my mind when I am sort of doubting or sort of feeling like, oh, here's the plan, but I don't want to. And her, and pardon my language, if this is not your thing, I'm quoting, she says, fuck your mood, follow your plan. And that's really it. We get too much into our mood and our emotion. And that's the thing that starts to override the plan that you've made that's really important for your health, your wellness, etc. So I want you to think about, first, accountability to yourself, some self-talk that gets you moving. And I will say that to myself. Okay, Deanna, yeah, you're tired, yada, yada. Stop complaining. Just do it. I made this plan yesterday. I made this plan Sunday. It's important for me to do this today. So stop complaining, overthinking, dive in and do it. So that's sort of one of the strategies. If that sort of a self accountability isn't there yet, or isn't there all the time, yep, I hear that too. Who else can you be accountable to? So this is why personal training is such a successful field, right? Because it is the thing that helps people be accountable when they don't really want to. Personal training, group fitness, knowing a group of people are kind of expecting to see you, looking forward to seeing you, right? Getting into classes, a walking group, a run group, pickleball, meeting with a trainer one-on-one, that sort of thing, right? When somebody's waiting for you to show up, you show up. So I want you to think about those two things. So two sides of the coin as we sum up. Sort of that one side of the coin, what does on track mean to you? What do you need to do? What do you want to do with sort of that side of things to stay on track? The other side of the coin is allowing yourself to have some downtime, be off track. For how long are you committing to that off track time? And how are you going to get started again when your time is up there with your off track time, getting you back in the swing? I am cheering you on as always. If you have questions, concerns, things you'd like help with, reach out, Deanna at deannalangfordcoaching.com, and I will see you soon.